Welcome to part 1 of how to use the Clevetech body mounting jig. In this part I'm going to show you how to mount a 30-second Eurosport shell, and in the second part I'm going to show you some of the other features such as mounting a body shell to a 24th production car or a 30-second Formula 1 car. So let's start with our 30-second Eurosport car. I've decided to mount the body shell on this one by leaving the wheels and tyres actually on the chassis. So if you're going to do it that way round, you need to make sure that you have this car plate installed. It just slides in place, clips in via magnets, so it's held in place, and all the slots then align with the base. The purpose of that is just to lift the chassis up to allow clearance for your tyres at the back. I've also preset the rear wing height. These lines at the back give you a rough idea of where to start for setting your wing height. The very top one is set at 28, then you've got 30, then you've got 32, 34, 36, etc. So 2 mil apart all the way down. So they give you a rough idea of where to start for mounting your rear wing height, for setting your rear wing height. But I would also check with a vernier to get your wing height set correct. So I tend to set it and then check either side that I've got it level and straight. So I've set that to 32.5, which is the legal limit for 30-second Eurosport. Also on my chassis, I've just taped the pans to make sure the pans aren't going to move in relation to the centre section, and just tape the lead wires down to make sure they're not going to get in the way. Put my chassis in place. So you can see now that the chassis lines up with the slots on the base. I've also pre-prepared my body shell, so I've trimmed the back of the body shell out, and on the back of the body shell I've put a piece of piano wire here, just taped it just loosely inside, and that piano wire is going to help hold the body shell up against these two magnets here to help set and hold it in place at the rear. Also, I've prepared the front of the body shell by cutting a flat front here with 1mm of vertical edge left at the front, which again complies with the rules. But I don't need to cut the sides away, so I've left the sides fairly long, well below the cut line. So I put my chassis roughly where I want it, put the body shell in place, down through the slots. You'll feel the rear wing locate in place. You can also see that the rear wing should locate right into here, so that the rear wing can't come back anymore. So the body shell basically is held in place. So the body shell is not going to move. The only thing you can move now in relation to the body shell is the chassis. So I can then decide where do I want my chassis to sit in relation to the body shell, and that way you can then slide the guide forward and backwards. The chassis is held in place by these magnets, so it's going to be okay. So you can gently slide the chassis backwards and forwards to the position where you want it. Now in my case, I want the chassis as far forward in the body shell as I can, obviously without raising the front of the body shell. So I'm going to slide the chassis forward. You can see at that point it's starting to raise the body shell, so I'll just slide it back a bit and make sure the body shell sits flat. That's one of the reasons why I've made sure the pans are taped in the far back position. So I know that if the pans move back when the car's running around the track, it's not going to lift the front of the body shell. If the pans move forward or back, it's not going to interfere with the front of the body shell. So I just want that little bit of clearance for the guide at the front, just to make sure that it's not going to lift the body shell up. So when I'm happy that I have my chassis in the right position, like so, I can remove the body shell, like so, and then I can align these pin tube guides. Now you might notice already, I've already aligned 3 of them in preparation for the video, but I can align the 4th one. So to align the pins, I can turn it round. I can use one of the long pins supplied, put it through the pin tube, and then I can loosen the arm like this, or I can loosen the pin tube like that. So I can slide it into place, put the pin through, line it up with the pins that are there already. Make sure you're just leaving a little bit of room for the body shell to slide between, and when you're happy with the position of that, you can tighten up the pin tube there make sure I didn't move the chassis in the process. Line that up with that pin tube there, and you can tighten it up here as well. And then I just do a double check just to slide the pin in and out and make sure the chassis doesn't move at that point. So I think I'm happy with the position of that. It looks like all my other pins line up nicely as I wanted. Make sure I'm happy with that, yes, and then make sure it's all tightened up in position. Make sure that's tight and that's tight. Okay, so I've now aligned my pins and I'm ready to mount my body shell. So I put my body shell back again, slide it in the grooves, in the slots, line it up at the back, make sure it all sits the way I was expecting it to sit before. Make sure your body shell's nice and square and lined up. Okay, and then when you're happy with that, you can take your pins. You can put my pins in here, and I can literally just push the pins through the body shell, like so, like so, and the same the other side. Pin in there, pin in there, push it through, and then my body shell is now pinned. So I can take my pins out, like so, remove my body shell, and then I've got my pins in the right place, pinholes in the right place in the body shell for where I wanted it mounted. And if I prepared a few body shells, such as another one here, I could just put that straight on, pin it again, and it's a very quick process to pin all your body shells in the correct position. Just going to remove the chassis now and show you how you can put it away. So I can loosen the nut at the back, the thumb screw at the back. This will slide out. I can pull that apart like that, turn it over. This bit fits in here and locks in place, and I tighten that in to hold that in place. And then the rear wing support just clicks in with a magnet there, and I can even use the magnets to hold the pins in place like that, and it's all done. I can push the pins in here like this, in place, and then it's done.